Have you ever wondered, can an animal remembers you after years apart? If you've ever loved someone so much that you would give up everything to see them again, you'll understand this story. A girl, a dog, an inseparable friendship. But when they meet again after 5 years, everything changes, and a life and death decision leaves everyone speechless. Before we continue, leave us a comment telling us where in the world you're watching this video from. And if you believe in touching stories, don't forget to subscribe now, because tomorrow there's a special story just for you. The sky was gray. The wind cut through the Montana mountains like sharp blades, whipping the old pines. Snow fell thickly, blocking the winding trails in the wilderness. But in the cold, there was one shining image. A little girl with honey-colored hair running across a field of white, followed by a golden-haired golden retriever, larger than life, as fierce as a creature of legend. Harper laughed and shouted, her eyes shining with pure joy. "Hurry, Riley! You have to be faster!" But Riley didn't need to be urged. He charged forward like the wind, his powerful paws digging into the soft snow. And then, plop! He jumped on Harper and they rolled in the snow, their laughter blending with the snowflakes falling slowly from the sky. Anyone who witnessed the moment would have thought this was more than just a little girl and her dog. They are two kindred spirits, born to find each other in this vast world. Have you ever felt such love? Is love so pure that it doesn't need words? A bond that transcends all boundaries between animals and humans? If you have, you are a person with a special heart. Harper and Riley are not simply best friends. They are family. Harper has never forgotten the day she met Riley. It was a harsh winter night. A blizzard swept through the area, blocking the sky and turning the forest into a dead land. When her father, Dr. Elliot Wells, a wildlife researcher, heard a faint howl coming from the dense forest, he stopped Harper. "Don't go into the forest. This storm could kill you in minutes." But Harper couldn't ignore it. She rushed into the darkness, fighting the strong winds, following the faint cry by instinct. And then, among the fallen trees, she found a small creature, shivering in the thick snow. A puppy. Its golden fur was covered with frost, its golden eyes blinking weakly. It would die if she didn't save it now. Harper wrapped Riley in her coat, holding her close, as if holding on to a piece of her soul. Was it fate that they would find each other? How had Harper raised Riley? Not as a pet dog. She taught him to run through icy streams, to hunt by instinct, to swim in water so cold it could freeze his lungs. Riley was no ordinary golden retriever. He grew faster than other dogs, bigger, stronger, smarter, as if there was wild blood running through him. But no matter how strong it was, when Harper called its name, it would always come to her. Its golden eyes reflecting the only image it had ever loved in this world. And yet, they had no idea that their time together would not last forever. One day, her father called Harper to his desk. He looked at her silently for a long moment, as if he didn't want to say the words. And then, he put his hands on the desk, his voice low. "Harper, Riley can't live with us forever." Her heart pounded. "No, no way. What are you talking about?" Dr. Wells sighed. "Riley isn't like other golden retrievers. She's not a house dog, Harper. She was born to belong to the wild." Harper felt a pang of fear tear through her. "No, Riley is yours. She's your family." But her father didn't waver. He had seen Riley hunt in the woods, how she moved like a wild creature, and he knew she couldn't be held captive forever. What if one day she left you, Harper? If you kept her too long, until she left on her own, would you be able to bear it? That was a question Harper couldn't answer. She ran outside, looking for Riley. She was sitting on the hillside, looking out into the distance, where the woods stretched out endlessly in the sunset, as if she knew. Harper held Riley tight, squeezing her as if she held on long enough, time would stop. But time never stopped. That day, Riley was taken away. Harper screamed and begged, but to no avail. As the car door closed, Riley looked at her through the window, her golden eyes filled with confusion, betrayal, and the unanswered question, why? It clawed at the door, trying to get to her. And then the car started moving. Harper ran after it, clinging to the faint hope that if she ran fast enough, she would be able to keep it with her. But no matter how hard she ran, the car kept rolling until it disappeared down the winding path. Harper collapsed on the ground, tears streaming down her cheeks. Riley was gone. Do you feel a pang in your heart? If so, it's because you have a seed of love inside you, a heart so big that it can love beyond the boundaries of humans and animals. Have you ever loved someone so much that you couldn't imagine losing them? If this story touches you, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments section. Have you ever felt like a piece of your heart was taken away? A void that nothing could fill? Harper Wells has lived with that void for 5 years. She has tried to bury the memory of Riley, convincing herself that he is living a better life, free, wild, and true to his nature. But no matter how many days pass, no matter how busy she is with her scientific studies of wild animals, at night, she still dreams of him. A pair of golden eyes glowing in the darkness. A bark echoed through the woods. An unspoken vow. I will never forget you. But will Riley keep his word? Harper isn't sure. But one thing she knows. If she doesn't find answers, she will never be able to rest. Harper was sitting in her office that day, reviewing wildlife camera footage from Yellowstone National Park, when a report from the research team caught her eye. A group of trained dogs were reintroduced into the Yellowstone Mountains 5 years ago. These creatures have since become integrated into the wild, becoming the region's apex predators. The words squeezed her chest. Riley could be one of them. Harper felt her heart pounding. She read on, her eyes glued to the screen. We have discovered a special dog, larger than the others, the leader of the pack, strong enough to take on gray wolves. But the most special thing? It's unlike any wild dog we've ever seen. It has golden fur and glowing golden eyes. Harper shivered. Number it can't be. But a voice in her head said, if you don't go, you'll never know. And so, Harper dropped everything. She booked a flight, packed her bags, and for the first time in 5 years, she headed back to the place that would change her life forever. Her father picked her up at the Montana airport. He wasn't surprised to see her, but there was a hidden worry in his eyes. As they drove down the dirt roads, through the majestic mountains, he said in a low voice, Harper, are you sure about this? I've never been more sure about anything. Dr. Wells sighed. He knew his daughter. When Harper made up her mind, no one could stop her. But then he said something that made Harper shudder. Harper, Riley has changed. She's not the Riley you knew. The puppy you loved could have turned into a fearsome predator. Harper paused. Images flashed through her mind. Riley running through the snowy fields, her eyes glowing with pure love. But then another image flashed. A giant dog silently watching her from the shadows, no longer the friendly friend he once was, but a wild, unpredictable creature. She couldn't believe it. Number Riley will miss you. You know it. Dr. Wells looked at her for a long moment, then said one last thing before stopping the car in front of the research camp. And what if he doesn't miss you? Harper had no answer. The next morning, Harper and the research team set off into the woods. Yellowstone was beautiful, but cruel. The vast, endless plains, the surrounding mountains, and the dense forests held countless secrets. After hours of searching, they found the first footprints, larger than any dog they had ever seen. Someone in the group whispered, "My God, how big is this dog?" Harper felt her heart beat faster. They followed the tracks, step by step, and then, among the dense trees, they saw it. A giant dog towering over the mountainside. It was no longer the small Riley of old. It was almost as tall as a wolf, its fur golden in the sunlight, its muscles rippling, its deep golden eyes seeming to contain the universe. Harper froze. Everyone held their breath. No one dared to move. "Harper, don't come any closer." But Harper didn't listen. She took a step, another. She called its name. Riley. It looked up. Those golden eyes stared at her. Did he remember her? Or was she just a stranger? Other dogs emerged from the woods. They began to growl. This was no longer child's play. This was the wild. Riley looked at Harper silently. She clenched her fists, waiting for what would happen next. Did you feel your heart beating faster? Did you see yourself standing there, next to Harper, waiting for a miracle or a tragedy to happen? If so, then you are a very loving person. Not everyone can be as patient, brave, and believe in love as Harper. Do you think Riley will recognize Harper? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to see what happens next, if you believe that love can transcend time, instinct, and distance, like this video now. Because what's about to happen will leave you breathless. Imagine standing in the middle of a wild forest at midnight. No street lights, no human sounds. Just the wind whistling through the bare trees, the rustle of leaves underfoot, and a pair of eyes watching you from the darkness. That's how Harper Wells felt right now. She wasn't just an observer. She was part of this story. She was standing here, in the middle of Yellowstone Park, where nature had no place for the weak. And right in front of her, Riley. Harper stood still. She didn't dare breathe. Before her, Riley towered like a god of the forest. He was no longer the little dog that trotted beside her. He was a wild creature, a leader, a warrior. Almost as tall as a wolf, Riley stood silently in the silver moonlight, his golden fur reflecting the cold light. The faint scars on its body were the marks of battles, of years of surviving on its own without anyone to protect it. But what made Harper shiver was not Riley's enormous size. It was its eyes, cold, quiet, emotionless. Did it remember her? Or was she just a stranger to it, a prey in its territory? Harper swallowed. She didn't dare move. The research team behind it spoke softly, their voices trembling. Harper, slowly back away. But she couldn't back away. She had waited 5 years for this moment. And then, from deep within the forest, other eyes began to appear. Each pair of eyes glittered like fragments of the night sky, reflecting the moonlight. It wasn't just Riley. It wasn't alone anymore. Its pack was surrounding Harper. Harper felt her body tremble. This was no longer a simple reunion. This was a test. If Riley didn't remember her, if it saw her as an intruder, there was no escape for her. "We have to get out of here now." someone in the group whispered. But Harper couldn't hear anything anymore. All she could see was Riley. She took a step forward. The pack growled. Some of them bared their teeth, their fur standing on end. But Riley didn't move. He just looked at her, looking deep into her eyes, as if he were reading her every thought. Harper felt her heart pounding. She raised her hand, slowly, inch by inch. Riley. The name had never left her lips in all these years. But did it mean anything to him anymore? Riley didn't move. A minute, 2 minutes. It felt like time was stretching out forever. And then, Riley moved. It took a step toward her. She could hear its breathing. She could see the scars on its face. Another dog growled, as if to signal that Harper was not allowed to go any further. But Riley turned to look at it, just for a second. And the other dog fell silent immediately. The pack was waiting for Riley to make a decision. Riley turned to look at Harper, eye to eye. And then, it took another step. There was only a breath between them. Harper started to cry. It had never forgotten her. She reached out slowly, and Riley didn't back away. It let her touch it. In that moment, all the years of separation, all the painful memories, all the time she wondered if it even remembered her, all disappeared. It was still Riley, and she was still Harper. No matter how much time passed, no matter how far away, love never dies. If you've made it this far, it means you have a kind and compassionate heart. Not everyone believes that love can transcend time and instinct. But if you do, if you believe that the bond between humans and animals is something sacred, please share this story. Maybe someone out there is searching for a part of themselves that's been lost. Maybe they need a ray of hope, just like Harper. Let this story touch more hearts. A cold wind cut through the forest, carrying the breath of the night. Moonlight glinted off the snow, illuminating the tense scene. Harper Wells stood surrounded by a pack of stray dogs. Riley, her dog, the friend she had loved more than anything in the world, faced her. But not the Riley she had once been. It growled. She swallowed, trying to keep her voice steady. Riley, it's me, Harper. No response. Riley's yellow eyes were like two burning coals, but they betrayed no emotion. From the darkness, other dogs began to appear. 6, 7, then 8. All of them surrounded Harper, their sharp teeth peeking out in the moonlight. Riley's pack. The wind whistled through the trees like a song of fate. People shouted behind her, "Harper, run!" But she couldn't. Run. Leave Riley behind. Number never. She took a step forward. The pack growled, their fur bristling. One of them advanced, baring its teeth, growling like thunder. And then it lunged at her. But just as the dog was about to bite Harper, a flash of yellow flashed by like lightning. Riley. It charged at the ferocious dog like a storm, knocking it to the snow. A fierce battle broke out. Fangs clashed, and growls rang out like thunder. Blood spattered onto the white snow. Riley stood over the fallen dog, its eyes blazing, its chest heaving violently. It was no longer a pet. It was a warrior. It was the leader. The other dogs backed away, eyes darting between Riley and Harper. No one dared to move forward, because now they all understood one thing. Riley had chosen her side. She stood in front of Harper, protecting her against the rest of the pack. As a leader, she could have ordered an attack, but she didn't. She remembered who she was, and that changed everything. Harper collapsed in the snow, breathing heavily. Tears welled up in her eyes, streaming down her cold cheeks. Riley slowly moved closer to her. She didn't dare move. And then Riley nuzzled her chest. The scent of her fur was the same as it had always been. Warm, familiar, like a memory left over time. "I never forgot you." Harper burst into tears, hugging him tightly. Her hands tightened around his golden fur, as if afraid that if she let go, it would all disappear like a dream. But this was not a dream. He was still her Riley, and she was still his Harper. Have you ever imagined that you would be reunited with a loved one after so many years apart? Do you believe that love can overcome time, instinct, and distance? If you have followed this story this far, it means that you have a great love in you, a heart that knows how to cherish the most sacred things in life. But the real question is, what will Harper do next? Will she be able to bring Riley back? Or is his fate tied to this place, to the pack he has protected for the past 5 years? If you felt moved by this story, if you believe that love and connection are the most powerful things in the world, please comment with your thoughts. Tell us, what would you do if you were in Harper's situation? Imagine you're standing in the middle of a wild forest, snow underfoot, the cold wind whipping at your skin. Before you were a creature you loved more than yourself, a creature you thought you'd lost forever. But now, there it stands. No longer the little dog it once was, but a wild spirit, a creature of the wild, strong, free, and unfettered by the human world. And then you realize, perhaps true love isn't about holding on, but about letting the one you love be free. Harper Wells is experiencing that moment right now. Harper holds Riley tight, as if she squeezes hard enough, she could hold her forever. His breath billows white in the cold air. She closed her eyes, feeling the familiar warmth, the feeling she had longed to experience again for the past 5 years. But when she opened them, she knew. She knew that this reunion could not last. She knew that Riley was no longer hers. He had chosen his path, and she had to accept it. "Riley, you want to stay here, right?" Harper whispered, her voice tight. Riley didn't answer, because he didn't need to. He just stared at her silently, his golden eyes as deep as the ocean, as if he wanted to engrave her image one last time. She looked around, seeing the pack, his new family, waiting in the darkness. They needed Riley. They needed a leader, and Riley had found his place. "You're an adult." Harper smiled, though tears were still falling. "You don't need me anymore." Those words hurt more than anything, but at that moment, she realized Riley still needed her, just in a different way. He needed her to understand, to accept, to let him go without the pain. She took a deep breath, placing her hand on Riley's forehead, gently as a goodbye. "I love you, Riley, and I will always love you." He nuzzled his head into her chest, as if to say he did too. Harper slowly stood up, taking steps back. Riley still looked at her, not taking his eyes off her. She knew that if she called, he would probably run after her, but she wouldn't. Because true love isn't selfish. True love is letting the person you love live the way they choose. She smiled through her tears, then turned and started walking away. "Be good, Riley." She didn't turn back, because she knew a part of her would always stay here with him. And no matter where she went, Riley would always live in her heart. Do you feel your heart pounding? Have you ever loved someone so much that you were willing to let them go so they could be happy? If you're still here, it proves that you're someone who always wants this world to be filled with love. So now, we want to ask you, do you believe that there are invisible connections between humans and animals? Before this story ends, We would like to extend our deepest thanks to you, the one who stayed until the end, the one who opened your heart to feel every emotion in this story. Not everyone has the patience to listen to a complete story. Not everyone has the empathy to be moved by a love that transcends time like this. But you did it. That proves that you are a person with a heart full of love, a person who knows how to cherish the sincere connections in life. Thank you for taking your precious time to listen to this story. Thank you for letting your heart feel, resonate, and vibrate. Thank you for believing that in this world, love still exists, whether between people or between people and another creature. And if this story has touched you, leave a mark. Like this video to spread the love. Share this story with someone you think needs a little warmth in their heart. And we have a question for you. How would you rate this story from 0 to 10? Leave your number in the comments. But wait, if you thought this was a heartwarming story, you won't want to miss the next one. A story about love, sacrifice, and the wonders of life. A story that might change the way you look at the world forever. Click on the next video on the screen and get ready for another journey. One that might just make your heart flutter all over again. See you there.